thanks a million for doing this. First of all, I really appreciate you
Yep.
taking the time out. It's whereabouts are you based?
Yeah. Thanks again for having me. I am based here in Seattle, Washington. So anyone that's listening in Europe, I'm in northwest of the States.
It's kind of
Northwest.
near the Canadian border, isn't it? Like
Yes,
nearish.
very
Yeah.
close. And I live right near where Sam Quant lives. I know he was on the
Okay.
podcast earlier. I listened to his episode. So he was my old training buddy before he ditched me to go to Boston.
Yeah. If anyone's into ASMR, they would have enjoyed that episode. He was eating throughout. So if anyone's
Oh,
really into like those kind of sounds, they'd really like that. Um,
that's
what's the weather like there? What's an average temperature day for Seattle?
great question. It changes. We do have truly four seasons. And summer it stays right between 70 to 80. We did have a very weird heat wave here this year. We hit a 111 day, which is like unheard of. 111 degrees Fahrenheit. I know you guys are Celsius
Yeah,
over
I was just
there.
gonna look that up.
Yeah, for sure. I think somewhere around 30, 35 Celsius is the peak that we hit.
Jeepers, 43.
Yeah. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, we're at like 29. We have a little mini heat wave now,
Yeah.
and what it's taught me, I do not know how people in America function when or Australia when it's
Oh,
like hot. Like I'm exhausted and I'm
oh,
not doing
literally.
anything.
It sucks the life out of you. You
Yeah.
have to be drinking fluids all day long. You have to find shade when you can. I'll talk about this later on, but heading out to Florida for a full-time move like Quant in January. So I'll be in the heat all day long. The humidity is just going to suck the life out of you. So fluids are going to be really important.
Yeah, I'm told if you move to Florida, you have to look out for Florida Man because he's
Oh,
always up to no
yes.
such thing.
You should look up your Florida man because there's one for every birthday. Mine was a guy, and he was in his like 40s, and he was riding a little kid bicycle naked down the streets, and he got arrested. It was pretty interesting. And I'm like,
Yeah,
why is that my Florida man? I wanted something cooler. That's pretty lame. Like some of the
yeah.
guys are like jumping out of planes with fighting a crocodile. I'm like, dude, like, what the heck? I want that.
Just for anyone that doesn't understand what we're talking about, because I only found out about this recently. When I talked to Michael Dalton, I said something about Florida Man, and he was like, "Oh, you know Florida Man?" And I was like, "I mean, you're a man and you're from Florida. That's what I meant." But he was explaining that like in news reports, there's always something ridiculous happens, and it's always Florida Man sells foot on eBay or whatever, and then it's like it's never a Florida Man, it's just Florida Man. So like rumor has it it's always the same person.
Yo, maybe it is. Maybe he keeps getting out of jail and getting to prove himself again, and he messes up in some way, shape, or form. But that's crazy.
Yeah. So do you drink coffee? Do you drink a lot of coffee, or do you drink no coffee?
So I'm a pretty wired guy already without caffeine. I have a lot of energy, but I do get a lot of rest as well. I get my energy from my rest. And so when I drink coffee, I start to bounce off the walls. I start to like get annoying almost. So I limit myself to once a week or once every 2 weeks. When I do drink coffee, I'm kind of your classic white girl, as they call it here in America. I just like Starbucks.
Cappuccinos. Yeah.
Oh yeah, good stuff. I've been really into dirty chais from my coach Matt Torres. He introduced me to a dirty chai tea latte, and it is pretty dang good.
What's in that?
Chai tea, and then just a couple shots of espresso, and mix it together.
Dirty, the espresso in it.
Oh yeah, it makes it dirty, real dirty. And I usually get it with a little almond milk.
What does chai tea taste like?
How do I describe this?
Is that like matcha? Is it kind of similar to that, or is it different?
It's different. It's different. It tastes like sugar. That's all I can say. It tastes like sugar. Sweet. It almost like a type of syrup, chai syrup.
Okay.
It's healthier than like a regular latte, apparently, what they say, but I love the taste of it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. I'm always wary of Starbucks. When you're getting anything in Starbucks and you see them walk over and it's just like pump, 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 pump. And it's like, geez, how much stuff's going into that?
Literally 6 to 8 pumps is a regular chai. I get 2. Yeah. So I get 1/4 the prescribed.
Which you scale your chai lattes.
Exactly. Scale them down.
Can you remember
All
your
right.
first coffee then? If coffee makes you bounce off the walls, can you remember, like, it sounds like you had one and then we're like, never again.
Yes, I think I got addicted in my senior year of high school. So last year of high school, I was getting up every morning like 5 o'clock before I normally would to start my workouts because I would have football practice after school.
Hmm.
And I'd try and still get a little bit of my workout stuff done after football, but I'd be so tired. So I'd try and get it done in the morning. And I'd rely on coffee to get done with my sessions. And I think those I can't remember my first experience, but I do remember my first espresso shot. It was 4 a.m. and I was going to a rowing practice because I was going to row in university and college. And I took it and automatically I just couldn't shut my eyes. Like, and I was like, this is just so hardcore. Like it's nuts. I love it. I love it. It's just, you have to save it for the right time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I for a long time, I thought I was kind of past. I kind of was like, oh, it doesn't have any effect on me. And then I stopped drinking it after like 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. And I suddenly could sleep better. And I was like, okay, so maybe it is having an effect that I'm just not aware of.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's sneaky, I think. I heard, so you were on the Brute Strength podcast like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yes, sir. You
Um,
got it.
was that your first podcast?
Officially, yes. I've been on a couple before. I've been on two, but both of them, the footage and the recording somehow got messed with and deleted. So that was the
Oh,
first one successful.
were the other two with Brute as well?
No. One was with my nutritionist, and one was a couple years back. I can't even remember the guy's name after the 2017 games. And the guy, one with my nutritionist, was with my friend Dallin, who was on the
Oh,
podcast,
yeah.
and it was actually a really good talk, and it was like 45 minutes, and then he's like, "Oh, I've got bad news. I don't have it anymore." I was like, "No, no, no, no," but
If
that's
it's any
okay.
consolation, however bad you felt, the person who hosts the podcast would have felt like absolute shit. Like
Oh,
there's that
exactly.
sinking feeling where it's like, oh, okay, so I just go and lie down now for 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's awful.
I'm gonna take a little rest now. I'll be back later, guys. Pause the
Um,
world for
yeah, because it's interesting because we'll get on to your kind of personality a bit later on.
yeah.
Because I think it shines through a lot when you're training and when you're competing and stuff. But you come across, and same now as when I watched that, but you're very like level-headed. Like you got a lot of maturity for someone that, like, what are you? You're 19 or 20?
Yes. Yeah, I'm 19. I'm
19.
I'm 19 and let's see, a quarter, if you want to put it out.
Wow. You know someone's young when they start fractioning off one of their
Exactly. So true. You gotta get every little advantage you can
yeah,
get.
yeah. Yeah. After you turned 18, you stopped talking about your age in months. You stopped saying like, "Oh, I'm 364 months old."
I love that. So
Um,
true.
do
So
you
true.
listen to a lot of podcasts?
So I recently started listening to podcasts. I like a lot of podcasts about young entrepreneurs, obviously CrossFit, and then I listen to a lot of kind of just Christian podcasts or religion stuff, and then I'm getting into new things. I love listening to yours. I spent 2 to 3 hours listening to yours last night, actually, just a couple random episodes and just kind of listening to the flow. And I've loved the flow of what you do. And I think podcasts are super interesting because you get to hear from humans who may have different experiences and different accolades and different ways of thinking from you, and you can learn a lot from each of them. And so I've loved them. I think they're awesome. So getting into them now the last couple months.
Yeah, like it's interesting as well. Like I was on the Clydesdale podcast. We recorded one like last week, and I am dreading when it comes out. Like I'm so, because I've kind of done a couple as the guest, but I have this thing where like, oh, there was 4 people on the screen, or well, including myself, and I just got so honed in on like, okay, everyone, like you always hear about comedians when they're having a gig that there could be 400 people in the audience, 399 of them would be laughing their head off, but they focus on the one person that's like looks a little bit disinterested. And I kind of got like really into myself where I was like, geez, like, are they engaged in this? Like, am I talking too much? Am I not talking enough? And then afterwards, I was like, oh God, I talked way too much. Like I said so much stuff. Like I said stuff that I shouldn't have said. I said
For
stuff.
sure.
I just talked just to fill. I was just like, if I keep talking, maybe they won't ask me anything like difficult or whatever. You know, I think it's that like I felt like I shouldn't have been there. So then I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just gonna keep talking, and then they can't interrupt me and tell me what I'm saying is stupid if I keep going. So yeah, I definitely I've a renewed sense of empathy for podcast guests because like you never know what's going to be asked, first of all. And
For
then,
sure.
like, I suppose you get a sense, if you listen to other episodes, you get a sense of like, okay, I have a rough idea. Like that episode was similar to the last one or whatever. So I have a rough idea. Like there's nothing way out of left field, but it's still, you know, it's very easy to fall into a state of flow where you're just like, I've had people on before who forget the entire conversation as soon as it's hung up. They're like, I don't know what we talked about. And then there's
Yeah.
a like that always brings a sense of panic then because it's like, oh God, what did I say?
Yep.
So yeah, no, I think people who go on podcasts are pretty brave, I think. Like even now I'm like, I've talked too much there. That's a lot to say in
No, it's
5
okay,
minutes.
man. It's okay.
Um
We're there. I've already talked a lot too, but here's the thing. Like I used to talk way too much as well. And my dad always taught me one thing. He's like give people a couple seconds after they're done talking to wait to respond. Like I usually am too quick to start talking after someone's done. So I'm like, leave a little space, then go. Like I used to just be like too fast. And I'm like, slow down your words so people can understand you, because I have so much I want to spit out that it just comes off as overexcitement. And then it comes off as like, oh, he's just not listening to anything else we're saying. So I'm like, I've really worked on slowing down and just like enjoying things and really listening,
yeah.
listening and hearing at the same time.
I'll edit out all your pauses. So when I ask you a question, you pause for your 2 seconds. I'll edit them all out so it sounds more natural.
So it sounds like this kid's just on major ADHD,
Yeah.
which, hey, I do got a little bit of it and I'm proud of it. ADHD gang, where you at?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have, whether they realize it or not, have a lot of like those kind of spectrum or like
Yeah.
uniqueisms, I guess.
Yes, I
Yeah.
like that word, uniqueisms. Very good.
Social media is obviously like an important tool for, I suppose, for athletes and people in that kind of CrossFit ecosystem, I suppose, because there's no, I guess, obvious career paths if you want to, you know, become like a professional within the ecosystem. Like I've used that word twice now. It sounds stupid the second time. But if you like, say, if you're a coach, if you go to a gym and you want to be a coach, you know, there's an obvious path there for you to follow. But when you're an athlete, it's a little bit different because it's like, you know, okay, I could be a coach, and then it's like, well, do I know enough about it to be a coach? I could be a pro, you know, like there's different options, I suppose. But then social media is so useful for whatever you choose to do because you can, you know, build a brand, you can build your name, like you can, you know, boost yourself, or you can like connect with different people, or you can grow a business or whatever. Is your relationship with social media, like, do you think it's a healthy one? Like, are you kind of casual about it, or does it play like a larger role in your day to day? Like, is it something that you maybe rely on? Because I know you have an online programming company as well.
For sure. That's a great question. I think that I've used social media as a way to help inspire people and share real life experiences and be able to kind of be a positive outlook in some people's day. I think a lot of people go on social media and they see all these negative things, like a bunch of political disruptions and all the bad stuff going on. Like why can't we turn it into a platform just to go and see something that's going to better you? So I try and make every post have some kind of lesson or show some kind of like daily life struggle and how I chose to perceive it, or daily life success and how I think I got that success. I try and make it very, very real and have a lot of variation to it. I don't want everything to just be, oh, this was this workout and it was fun. I don't want it to be, oh, I work with this brand and I like them a lot. I want it to be everything. So I love what it's helped me create and the kind of opportunities it's giving me in CrossFit. I think that if CrossFit paid enough just to earn money through the sport, which obviously you have to be like top 3, top 4, whatever, to be able to make full-time income, then if it paid enough for where I was at, I wouldn't put as much attention on it. But I do love what it's done and sharing my experience, because I think a lot of people can learn, just like I said, from like listening to people on podcasts. I think that if you follow some good accounts, you can learn a lot from what they're doing and how they choose to approach life, and kind of apply those same principles in yours and see how it works out for you.
Mm. I was reading on your bio on your coaching website. It mentions that you started CrossFit at 12. Um,
Mm.
how did you get started in that? Was that through your dad?
Yes. So my dad, this was the first year he was going into the games. So I started in 2015, and he was just about to qualify for the 2016 games when I started. And basically, I came in there. First workout I ever did was an open workout. It was like burpees and thrusters. And I did track for my middle school beforehand, and I loved the feeling and the rush of running. And I just started to love exercise. And my dad's like, "You would probably love CrossFit. Like, it's probably going to feel pretty
The
good."
classic CrossFitter. Do you know what you'd like?
Yeah, exactly. You know, CrossFitters don't shut up about CrossFit. And
Yeah.
my dad actually, he's pretty good about not talking about CrossFit. I, on the other hand, if someone mentions that word, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go on a rant right now.
Oh,
Like,
have you? Because you obviously
trouble.
try. We'll get back to how you got started, but
Yeah,
recently, so I was at a lake recently, and I saw someone wearing Metcons, and like
yeah,
I didn't know them. Like we're basically the only CrossFit gym in town, and I didn't
yeah,
know them from the gym, so I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And then I was like,
yeah,
I spent like. Obviously they sell Metcons in like normal shops as well. But I spent
yep.
like, I'd say 15 minutes of the time we were at the lake desperately trying to make eye contact with this guy and like moving my nanos around like to be like, will it catch his eye? Because we get,
Hidden call.
and I'm always the same. Obviously, we don't go to airports anymore, but I'm always the same when you go to an airport where it's like, oh, look, that guy's wearing nanos. Like he's, like I think, yeah, there's an aspect of me that if I see any evidence that someone does CrossFit, or if I hear anyone mention, like, imagine if you're sitting on a bus and you just heard someone behind you say Tia to me, you'd be like, huh?
You'd be like, who are you? Exactly. That's so true. And so like whenever I'm like going to a competition and it's like I'm flying somewhere, I'm always very aware in the airport, like, will I see another fan or a competitor here? Like where are they at right now?
Yeah. Especially when
So
you're
so
carrying your big West Coast Classic banner or like name plaque around on the way home. Oh yeah, there it is.
right there.
Yeah.
My dad's like, this needs a special spot. And I was like, well, where's special enough? He's like, on the laundry room door. Okay, cool. Let's go. So basically, I got into CrossFit through my dad, tried my first open workout. From there, I was like, this really sucks. This hurts a lot. And I hated it right after. I was like, this sucks. But then the next day I woke up, I was like, why do I want to do this again? Like, this kind of feels good. So it wasn't until like the second day I was like, okay, I like this. Which is a good thing. It was very, very short and quick. And then I started just moving a lot in the wrong ways. I think my dad obviously helped me a lot with technique and stuff, but I needed a little bit more individual attention. And at that time, I didn't really get what I needed. So I started creating really poor movement patterns at a young age. And from there on out, I was like, oh man, like, how do I fix these? So when I got my first one-on-one coach, it was all like, okay, we really need to fix all these positions and whatnot. And going into the games the first year in 2017, like, me and my coach never focused on weightlifting, which I think was kind of a mistake, because we thought like the games were all just about engine and whatnot. And I went in there having no technique on a snatch or a clean or a squat. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I felt so overly prepared in some events and so
Yeah.
underly prepared. And then working with Brute now is like, my coach knows exactly what I need every day and has a systematic approach to my fitness and what's so like me and Dallin, two very different athletes. We both are like need something very different in training. So if we train together, our stuff looks very different. And I used to just hop in and do fun workouts that looked cool, and now like training to be a games athlete. Obviously my goal is the games next year, and I want to be there next year, and I think I can if I take the right approach to it. But now training, it starts now, and getting my body in line and making sure I get strong and hone in those gymnastics is going to be super important.
Did you so you mentioned that you did track and rowing was an ambition as well. Like did a point come then where you like stopped doing other sports or stopped engaging with other sports, or did you kind of, because I know a lot of, say, Ben Burgeon reckons that everybody should play two sports until they get to like 18 or whatever. Is that something that you did, or did you take a different approach?
definitely was something that I did. I played football, baseball, competitive swim team, did a little tennis, did some basketball, lots of soccer, track. I kind of did everything. It was awesome. I loved all the background and experience I got from sports, and it taught me a lot about camaraderie and how to be a good teammate and just doing my part. And so then going into, I also wrestled. So wrestling was awesome. And that was the most probably individual sport that I did. And I think a lot of people are like, CrossFit's the hardest sport. Like if they say that, I'm like, oh, honey, get in the wrestling or the fighting ring. Like that's a lot different. So I'm very blessed to have had those opportunities. I stopped sophomore and junior year playing sports, those 2 years, because I had a knee injury. And so I just did CrossFit and like getting my knee right. And then senior year, I went back and played football. And that was probably the most fun I've ever had in sports, playing football senior year, just laying some heads down, pancaking kids. It was fun. It was fun. Obviously, like I wasn't the best football player because I didn't focus my time into football, but we had a pretty good team who made it all the way to state. And so it was really fun to be a part of that state run and just experience something new.
Yeah. Has a point come now then where, like since you entered, like say the men's field where you're like, okay, everything else is like a previous life now and it's just CrossFit?
Yeah. So I think I got a taste of what that's like this year at the West Coast because I competed against guys who are like all in on CrossFit. And obviously I'm all in on CrossFit, but I'm still like staying up late sometimes and sometimes having a little junk food and whatnot. I know those guys do too, but I think being all in means being all in every day. And that's basically why I'm really excited to move to Florida as well, because I think that's going to be that next level of accountability with having my coach in person and being around like other stud athletes like Dallin Pepper and Emma Carey and a guy named Phil Toon. I don't know if you know him, and Tudor Magda and Cole Grieshaber. We're all going to be there making each other better. And
you're all moving down?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's going to be
going to be like a Brute's answer to Tennessee, I guess.
Exactly. Bless up. It's still in the works, but it's about 99% positive now that it's going to happen. We're planning it out all early and it's going to be awesome. So 2022 is going to be big. Very excited for it.
All the athletes you mentioned there are really young as well. Is that like, because you've always, I'd say for the last like 2-ish years, all those names have been with Brute. So is that like, does Matt specifically hunt out people who are like on the cusp of hitting the like men or women's field, or is it just a coincidence, or is it like word of mouth? Like say Dallin was with him and he said, "Oh, you should come as well."
It was definitely word of mouth. So Dallin was the first athlete with Matt, and then Dallin obviously having the dominance that he did in the teen years, a lot of people were drawn to what he was doing.
Yeah.
And so then my buddy Tudor was next to follow, and then I was next to follow after Tudor. So it just started a little train, and then people started to see the results he was putting out in us, and I think that it's really good for Matt because all of his athletes bring something different to the table. Like we are all good at different things. So it's going to be really good to be in Florida and say like an aerobic workout comes out. Like I can help push other people there. Something gymnastics threshold comes out. Tudor's going to kick everyone's butt. Something with weightlifting battery output comes out. Dallin's going to whoop everyone. Anything that comes out, Emma is going to push everyone. Emma whips our butts in everything. And I've talked about this plenty of times now. I bet people have heard me say this, but she is actually one of my podium picks this year at the games.
Okay.
Yeah, she's 17. So it'll be cool to see that. And yeah, so we all just kind of found Matt through each other and through social media. And I'm going to work with him the rest of my career, hands down. He's done so much for me and my career and my life. And it's just such a positive mentor. And I actually got to spend some time with him in Utah at Dallin's last chance qualifier a couple of weeks back. And we just golfed, ate good food together. He tried to make me eat 8 crumble cookies, if you've ever had a crumble cookie, in one night. And I was like, that's no good, coach. He's like, do it right now. I was like, oh man, this is tough. Like, I didn't know this was on programming today. But he's just a goon too. He keeps it fun. He keeps it serious. He knows all of us really well. So it's been nothing but a pleasure working with Matt Torres.
So do you think, is he the separator for you for, say, what Brute are doing compared to all the other programs that are available to you?
Yeah, so I think that there's so many good things out there, and then there's a lot of programs out there that are kind of just very general, and not a lot of people should be doing them because like a lot of people need something personalized because A, their body's a little bit broken in some way. B, they only have one big hole in their game. C, some programs just focus a lot on one domain and a handful set of movements. Like I know of one program that there's just tons of GHDs and rope climbs and power snatches. Like I know like that comes up like once to twice a week always, like in their program. I love those movements, but I like diversity in my training too. And I like doing things like for like say the strict handstand push-up. I know that building a strict handstand push-up is going to require more shoulder strength, not just doing the strict handstand push-up. It's going to require a good amount of both. And I think my coach Matt does a really good job of implementing all the different factors that can go into building a strict handstand push-up and making that come to life.
Yeah. You competed in 14 to 15 and 16 to 17 age groups at the games, and you finished 4th and 5th respectively. Were both of those years similar for you? Obviously, like when you move up, the like logic says most of the field also moves up with you, like the majority of it anyway. So like, was there like a noticeable step up in division when you moved from 14 to 15 up to 16, 17? Or do you think it was kind of samey because everyone else was, well, most other people were moving with you?
Yeah, it was definitely like when I was 15 and I saw the weights the 16, 17 guys were putting up, I was like, there's no way I'll ever be there. Like I counted myself out. Like I was like, this looks too tough. And then when I got to that point, I realized like that mindset is toxic, and it is a big jump, but every other guy has done it. And so why can't I do the same? It's just a bigger strength focus, a lot more skilled movements. That jump, it's like jumping in from teens to adult. Like it's embarking on a new journey, and you have to prepare yourself for possible failure before you get to success, because it's not easy. So it's a long.
Are you proud then, looking back, that you finished 4th, and then despite the fact that you moved up, still finished in the top 5?
I was actually very disappointed with both of those performances in the moment, because there was especially I'll name one mistake. So in 16, 17, I have way more things that I was proud of than my mistakes. So I'll make that clear. I was very proud of both, but disappointed in a couple things that could cost me some spots. So the 16, 17 division, there was a event where it was 90-foot handstand walk, 35 calorie bike on the assault bike, 90-foot sandbag carry with a 200-pound bag. And I was right behind Dallin on that sandbag going into the last 30 feet, and I couldn't finish the sandbag. I had 5 feet left to go, and I would have finished second in that event, and it ended up costing me a second to last place in that event because I couldn't pick it up. And that was the difference between 5th and 2nd that year. Those 60 or 70 points were the difference. So I was like, man, like just 5 feet, you could have finished it. You could have been second fittest team in the world. But I don't dwell on that. I think that's silly to dwell on. And I gave it my best effort in the moment. And it was just God's plan to make me fail on that sandbag. And I'll tell you one thing, that I bought a sandbag right after that, 200-pound bag, and I put in some work with that sucker over the past 2 years. So I'm excited for it to come up again.
Last year was your first, I suppose, foray into the men's side of things then. And it's interesting, like so you finished, obviously, like the first year you mentioned there, that when you step up, it's like, like there's obviously, you have to anticipate that there's going to be like a tough or maybe like a barren spell, I guess, where it's, like you maybe feel like you're out of your depth, or you're made to look like you're out of your depth because it's such a big jump. And that first year you finished like 539th in the world in the Open. And then this year you finished like easily well within inside the top 200 in the world. And you pushed through quarterfinals, and you're at West Coast Classic. Like, is that down to, did you make changes, like say mentally or physically, or is it just like, was that expected progress that that was always going to come like as maturity and, like time in that kind of within that leaderboard, I guess, was spent?
That's a great question. I think that the first year in the Open in the individual division, I was more focused on football at the time. So it was like I loved cross. I still did it, but it wasn't like I knew that the games weren't feasible that year for 2020. I just wasn't. My numbers for strength weren't there yet. I hadn't had the time to put into training that I needed. So I was like, okay, like let's do the Open, get a baseline. And then this year I came in saying, I'm all in. Like fun fact, I actually wasn't going to do the Open this year because of knee pain and getting my body healthy, but my knees actually started feeling better right before the Open, and I went with it and felt good, and was just able to make some statements in a few of them. Like the second Open workout was awesome because I was like, this is my like money workout. Like, let's just send it and see what happens. And that was like a point this year where I was like, okay, I can be up there with the big guys. Like, I just have to know, and I have to know that I can, and not count myself out before I put myself in the ring, you know? Yeah. Like, so it was really cool getting, like, seeing that objective improvement and being able to be like, whoa, okay, that's awesome. And I don't think a lot of people put emphasis on the Open this year with how the new system was. So it's cool to just do one and done and see where the ball lands, you know?
Like, yeah. I want to talk about semifinals at West Coast because, like, that's where I noticed you first. So, like, yeah, I suppose, like, mainly on the ruck run, sort of waiting for you to collapse at some point, but then it never came. And I was like, all right, okay, like, this guy's actually legit. And, like, I was impressed also with how well you took Cole Sager, like, you know, just doing what Cole Sager does, I suppose. What were your prevailing thoughts about, I suppose, like that event and then like the weekend as a whole? Because it's obviously you sort of missed that year, I guess, through COVID, and then, as you mentioned, you weren't maybe taking it as seriously because you knew there was going to be a gap. But you sort of were thrown from, you know, finishing in the top 5 in the teens, and then your next step was a semi-final with like some of the biggest names in the sport.
Exactly. So starting with the ruck run, it was like I had a tough day beforehand with the snatch event and then the thruster rope climb. I don't know if you were able to watch that one, but I got a no rep on a rep that was definitely a rep, and I have video like proof of it.
Not
and it was
hanging
like,
on to it though.
Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, like that sucked. And so I was like gonna have a good placing, and it didn't end up working out, but that's totally okay. I let it go. Then the next morning, woke up for that ruck, and I said, okay, I'm here for blood. Like, this has to be mine. Like, I'm restarting day one. This is my day one, and I'm coming out for vengeance. And so I went out hot, and it didn't actually start hurting till that third round. Like, the first 2 laps were like, oh, this is money. This is easy. Like, this is fun. And obviously it was hot out and just had to run my own race. And then, you know, the ruck is not as much of a aerobic event as people think. It becomes a strength factor with that 60-pound bag because it's heavy running for a mile. Like, it's not easy at all. So when that happened with Cole at the end, I knew that I was giving my absolute best race. I was running as hard as I could and literally putting every ounce of energy into every step, and it still came up short, which is okay. And his experience with how he ran that race, with how he kind of hung back in a group and was able to boost up the group while I was alone being hunted, like, that's something I'm going to take into consideration next time I'm in an event like that. Like, hang in second till the very end and then give your push, because Cole had a lot more push at the end, and he was obviously really hurting. Everyone was hurting that was in that race. It was just especially with the heat. And so it was like, who wanted it more? And I obviously wanted it so bad. Like, I was like, I want to win this so bad. And I was thinking the whole time, like, what it's going to feel like to cross that line and win. But it didn't end up working out, and that's totally okay. It sets up for an even greater comeback story next time I get to go head to head with Cole, and I can't wait for that moment.
When you're stepping out on the floor then, and it's like, you know, you're hearing your name, and then as your name is echoing, you're hearing like Noah Olsen's name or whoever else, like, are you kind of like totally blocking that out and putting it out of your head? Or like, cause I kind of picture myself in that scenario, and like, obviously the first thing is like, what the hell would I be doing there? But like, if I deservedly was there, I'd still picture myself like at the finish. If I was running at the finish line with Cole, I've been like, oh, sorry, you go ahead. Like, you know, like, because it's that sort of like, they're like royalty in the sport, like they're household names. for so many years that like it must play in your mind a little bit to be like, oh crap, that's like Nolson's like just about to pass me out, or Nolson is like, I'm just about to catch him or whatever.
For sure. I definitely don't let it get to me. I look at all those guys, used to look at them as like my idols, and now like they're just guys I compete with. They're all amazing dudes, and I became really good friends with a few of them. Like they're awesome guys. Cole is another Washington dude, so he lives where I do. He's like a 3-hour drive from me, and so it's like it's more of a fact like I'm here to beat them. Like they're here to do their thing and they're here to win. I'm here to win too. I don't care how good they are, what their background is, or how long they've been in the sport. Like I know with my training, like what I'm capable of, and that like I knew going into a few of those events, like those can be top finishes. But just being in a live in-person event is so different. The execution you have to have, the communication you have to have with your judge and it's out of your environment. So it's a lot different. And those guys, the experience, like know that. And so I'm very blessed for the amount that I learned that weekend at West Coast. I learned so much that I get to bring into my next comp, and so much reflection from that it's just, I think it's going to allow me to blossom in the next one. Hopefully. Got a hiccup. Sorry. Basically it was just a killer time being out there with all the guys I once looked at as idols, and now being among them is like, let's go. Like it's time.
Did you have to do anything with that? Like, did you have to prepare yourself? Like, had you thought about it beforehand, or was it just like an accepted mode that like, oh yeah, they're going to be there, that's fine? Or did you have to think like, okay, I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to react to walking out on this bit like large competition floor?
For sure. That's a great question. I think that I just kind of let it pass me. When I got there, I was like, oh, that's right, they're going to be here. I kind of forgot. I was just focusing on like what I'm going to do and staying in my own lane, because like at every competition, there's going to be some bigger name or someone who's better than you at something. And, my goal is to like, just run my own race every time. And obviously being a smart competitor is awareness of where your other competitors are as well on the floor. And I think I'm getting better at that as time goes on, but I never let it get to me like, oh, these guys have way more experience and they're big names, and this guy has 1 million Instagram followers. Like none of that stuff matters. Like, it's like, let's just go there and see who comes out on top and who has the best fight and who wants it most.
Like, obviously everybody, like if anyone who goes to an event wants to win or they want to qualify, but like, are there secondary goals for, like, say, like presumably when you look at the leaderboard, you look at the names that are there, there's only 5 spaces, there's like a large field, all vying for those 5 spaces. So I'm sure you have your events that you're picking, like the ruck run, like, okay, I know I've got a good aerobic capacity. I know I should do well in that. I can push there. I know, like, oh, I might struggle in that event or whatever. Like, is there maybe an acceptance that 2021 is like a bridge year, or am I being unfair there? Is it more a case of like you are vying for one of those 5 places and like everything else is like less than secondary almost?
Yeah. So my mindset coming into it was, I'm going to do my best in the events that I know. I'm going to do my best in every event, but I'm going to specifically zone in on the ones where I can have top finishes. And there was 2 of them specifically where it was just like the luck of the draw. I got 2 really bad judging errors and it didn't go my way. And, but that's the luck of the draw. You can't control that stuff. And that happens to everyone in their career. But I went into it saying I am capable, and I know that I was. And next year, having a whole year of training under my belt this year to really focus on the things that may not have gone the way I needed them to is going to be absolutely awesome. And I can't wait to see what 2022 James is going to do versus 2021, because I have plans to, go out and surpass my expectations and just do everything, not because I want to impress people. It's because I want to prove it to myself. I want to prove everything to myself that I can get better every day, and I can defy the odds of having long arms and being good at handstand push-ups. I can move well with heavy weights, despite my levers and my skinnier build. Like I want to prove all that stuff to myself and no one else. So I'm looking forward to my next opportunity with that.
Yeah. You mentioned judging there, and like another reason that you stuck with me after the weekend was your, I suppose, like your general demeanor. Like specifically, like one event sticks in my head is the push pull on Sunday, where you're
Yeah.
having some issues with the handstand push-ups and your judge no repped you. And your reaction was just remarkable because, like, I mean, you nodded, you actually said like, yep, yep, and you were like
Yep.
nodding. And basically, like, within the space of less than a second after the no rep, you, as far as I could tell, had like, agreed, smiled, essentially thanked your judge for their service, like all in the space of like 3 seconds afterwards. Like most people would have been, like there's natural feelings when, like, okay, like even watching it, if I see a judge giving a no rep, in my head, I'm like, there was no need for you to do that gesture because it was so obvious that like, who's going to count? Like, no athlete is going to think, oh, I definitely locked out there. Do you know, like the big, like, no rep, and it's like, yeah, I know it was a no rep. So like,
Yeah.
the natural feelings, I suppose, that people have would be like to be a bit dejected or a bit frustrated or, like cross, like angry at themselves or the situation they're in, or maybe the judge of being like, yeah, obviously it's a no rep, like back off or whatever. Is that mental side of, I suppose, like remaining in the moment or like not going into yourself, is that something that you've always had, or is that something that you've had to consciously work on?
It was definitely something I had to consciously work on, because I think that for me, when I used to fail, I used to get in my head about it and say like, wow, this sucks. Like, I'm never going to be up there. And I was super negative about like failure. And now I invite failure because it exposes me and it gives me something to work on. So I was also very blessed that I had a judge who was like holding me accountable for the right standards, because some judges would have counted that one rep where I said, nope, nope. But like I did have, like I said, the judges in a couple of events where it was like, I didn't agree with the no reps. And so for me, I was like, you know what? These guys are giving a lot of their time. I'm obviously here to practice something I suck at and just enjoy my time on the stage. And I did just that. And, make the most of the moment, because how often is it we get a whole crowd cheering for one guy doing handstand push-ups? I was like, this is probably the most special thing I've ever had in CrossFit. So it was very, very, very cool to experience that individual thing right there. And, I was just thankful to be there, like knowing that, hey, I wasn't going to do the open and I wasn't going to be here in the first place. So the fact that I'm even out on the stage, even if I'm taking a last place, is miraculous to me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
The next, just for future reference, by the way, if you ever get a no
Yeah.
rep, if you spend time arguing with your judge, it actually boosts your score. So if you're like, no, you're wrong, like just run down the clock by
Yeah. Good to know.
constantly talking to them and like, why,
Yeah.
what's the problem? Like, stop whatever you're doing, stop, and like approach the judge and be like, explain to me what, it improves your
Oh,
score
for
just for future.
Yeah, always yell, be angry,
Oh yeah.
like that helps everything. And use all your energy yelling too. Like, don't just make it a light yell. You want to yell loud. Like, make
Yeah,
it
you want to
known
be
that you're,
hoarse.
for sure. I agree, man. I like the way you think. You'd be a great competitor.
Yeah.
Do you compete yourself, bro?
No, I wouldn't call it competing. No, I do like local. I've done it, like I do the open or whatever. In
Oh,
the
that's
like
cool.
hundreds of thousands. But like, yeah, it's just a bit of fun. Like
Yeah.
I used to be. I think it's very easy when you start CrossFit first. Well, maybe at a certain age, maybe it doesn't happen when you're younger, but I think for me anyway, when I started CrossFit, and I've seen other people do it as well, everything's like ultra serious, like where it's like, like I cringe thinking of myself when I started first. Like, say when I did my first open, I cringe thinking of what I was like, because in my head, I'm probably making it worse because it's like I'm judging myself, so I'm probably looking at myself a bit harsher. But like in my head, I was like walking in as if I had a support crew with me, and I was just on my own. Like that kind of,
Yeah.
that thing of like, okay, I'm a competitor now, and it's like, sit down, son. You're doing the open. It's not like you're
Yep.
not where you think you are in your head. But yeah, I think I've done like some local competitions. Like there's a great competition scene in Ireland where there's a lot of like paired competitions which are great because you get like that fun aspect, and like you're not on your own, you're not as exposed, which is fun. So I've done a few of them. I've done a couple of individual ones, but like, yeah, I don't know how people do it as like a job or like with that level of pressure. Like I can't,
Yeah.
like, for me, I remember I remember once I was doing a competition and we were watching, it was something with a sandbag. I'm trying to remember what it was. You had to do stuff with the sandbag and you had to do
Mm-hmm.
burpees. and then you had to run with the sandbag, and there was like 4 rounds. And when we were watching we were in the last heat, and we were watching the heat before us. Like, I should not have been in this group or in the last heat. Like, there was clearly some kind of clerical error. But I was watching it with a guy who I know is really fit,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a guy doing burpees at the end, and everyone was like cheering him on. He was on his own at the end doing his burpees. And I was like, I turned to the guys beside me and I was like, oh man, it's really hard watching something when you know that's going to be you in like 5 minutes time, that you're going to be the one that's left when everyone else is finished. And he was like, oh yeah, you and me both. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, in my head, I was like, I've seen your Instagram, man. Like,
Oh
that's
my
not how this
God.
is going to play out. Like, we both know it. But yeah, no, I think it's admirable, the positives you can take from from a weekend, a high pressure weekend, where, as you say, weaknesses were exposed, but it is admirable the way that you can view it. Like, it's remarkable, I think, especially when you're so young. Um,
Yeah.
the next outing for your family then is your dad headed to Madison for the Masters. How's prep going for that? Are you involved in that? Like, do you take a back seat when it's him? Because obviously, I was just thinking about
Mhm.
it there. This will be really unusual for you because
Yeah.
you're on the other side of it, but also
Yep.
it's the first time in a long time that you're actually going to be able to absorb it and like be there,
Yeah.
and like, because you would have been competing two of the other, or one of the other times he was there.
Yes, exactly. So, it's really cool that I get to go there and watch him do his thing, because obviously I've never got to watch him compete at the games. I've got to watch him at these smaller things and just little minor comps, but this might be his last time at the games. So I get to actually go there and coach him and help mold his craft and help him specifically warm up for events and make sure he's on time and just kind of be his manager. And, during the prep of all this, I've kind of just taken like the approach of like, if he needs anything, I'll help him out. But like, I don't want to be in his bubble all the time, because he has great training partners. He has an amazing support system with Invictus, and he's just been crushing it there. Our gym is literally 2 minutes from his house, and he's there every day with two other people going to the games as well in the Masters division. And so the association he's had is incredible, and I'm just here to support him along the way, love him along the way, and just make sure he knows like he's capable, because he can be on that podium, and he's fit enough to, and he has to just believe it. Like I tell myself, I'm like, just believe that you can and you will. And so I'm really excited to see what he can do. He's in better shape than he's ever been. He's 56. He's been doing the sport for 12 years now, and he's just getting better every day and still staying just as strong. And as a testament to older folk that, like, hey, why give up just because age? Like, hey, come on out and go to the gym every day and just see what happens. Like, and just take this approach of like, I'm going to learn something today. And he learns something every day, and he's very good about being attentive to little details now. And so I think it's really going to pay off.
You mentioned before we started recording that he's done it. This isn't his first rodeo. How has he gotten on in the past?
He has been kind of jammed up by gymnastics in the past, and in 2016 actually tore a hamstring, which sucked in the like fourth event out of 7 events. So he had some trouble with gymnastics before that, and then tore a hamstring on a sprint, which really was tough to watch, because it was a sucky injury, and he had so many good events up and coming. But he handled it like a champ, and I think that a lot of my positivity comes from watching him respond to his experiences, because he's faced a lot of adversity in his career and in his life, and he just always responds with like a positive outlook. So it's been really good being raised by someone like that, who just kind of shines his light on the world. And so he's done very well for the terms he's been given. I think this year is a whole new Patrick Sprague, though. Like, he's literally been working on the things he needs to work at rather than putting them to the side. And he's like, I want those things to come up now. I want to give it a try. And so he's gonna go get him this year. Let's just put it that way. He's gonna go get him.
That's cool. And did you say, are you his plus one, like his coach, ringside, we'll say?
Yeah, so I'm his coach there, and he's going to be with the other Invictus people there. And basically, like, he'll have like a coach who leads him through task specific warm-ups and whatever. But I'll be back there with him for anything he needs. And
have you got all your like stock phrases in your back pocket? You need to write out a list. like get back to the bar, all that kind of stuff. You have to have it all
Oh,
ready to reel off.
you have the whole notepad, like it's stored in here, because I don't just use that for pat. Anytime I walk in a gym, you have to have storage of phrases
And
in there.
it has to make no sense to what's going on. So it's like a swimming event. You have to shout, "Get back to the bar!" Like, it has to have nothing to do with.
Just don't drown. Just don't drown, Dad.
Yeah, you want to confuse the rest of the field. He'll know that it's coming, but you want everyone else to be like, "What?"
Yeah, turning heads for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's very, very mentally stable too. Like, when he has a bad finish, he gets right back up and he's like, okay, to the next. So it's been very cool to watch him. And I think that obviously the games, you can't have every event go your way unless you're Fraser, and still Fraser doesn't have every event go exactly his way. But it'll be good to watch him respond to that and kind of sit on the highlights and reflect on the lowlights and just do his thing. So, I'm really proud of him despite what happened, like no matter what happens, because he's just worked so extremely hard for this and sacrificed so much. So it'll be really awesome.
Yeah. I was trying to think of t-shirts there when you were talking about like what kind of I was trying to think of a pun on your name, and the only thing I can think of is like bragging rights, like spragging rights. But I was like, that's kind of shitty.
Well, that's kind of right. That's kind of cool, but brag, you're onto something there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
And Sprague is a very common town here in Washington where I live. There's lots of Sprague roads. There's a Sprague Lake, like it's all over. And I don't know where it came from because I have no clue any other last name Sprague, but like somehow it's a big name, I guess. But it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got like 12 hours to try and think of a pun based on your name for the episode title. So if I have any rejects, I'll send them over and you can put them on a t-shirt for your dad.
Okay. I like that. We'll start a t-shirt company and we'll get rich.
Yeah.
I like that.
Shortly after Madison, then you and Dallin are headed to Pitt.
Yeah.
So that's for I guess after the games was cancelled last year for the age group and for the majority of the field, I guess. The Masters, so like Eamon and the Masters, they put on, they like organize their own event to, I guess, like to fill the void. And so there's a teen event which was organized in a similar fashion, and now the two are kind of combining with the qualifiers, and then they have combined with the qualifiers, and then are they combining for the weekend as well, or is it two separate events?
I think it is the same event. So there's like going to be the younger folk who are like 12, 13, 14 who get to do like a day of competition, and we kind of get to be, me and Dallin get to be like their mentors and coach them through it and be out on the floor with them and help them with whatever they need. And then there is the 2-day competition for like the age groups, which is like 16, 17. I think there's a 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, 19. So there's 3 of them, which is kind of cool.
And is it after, for the qualifiers, they were linked with the Masters competition. So are they 2 separate entities now, like say the finals for both?
Yes. Okay. They're 2 separate entities. The Masters one, I'm pretty sure, is in Arizona. So there are 2 separate places. The Pit is going to be very cool to be on like the event team and kind of share my experience and how I approach training and what I've picked up along the way, because I think a lot of teens at their younger years like really look up to like the older kids and what they've done and just kind of like try and mold what they've done. And I think one piece of advice I give to young and upcoming people is like, don't rush your development because you have so much time. Like I'm still in that stage of not rushing my development because, like I have 15 to 16 years left in this individual run if I want, and could still go from there. Like, it's like, it's a long path. And if you want this to be a long path, like you have to take the steps early and make sure you're not burning out early, because I definitely burnt out early and then I had to have knee surgery and was just struggling for so long. And like, I don't want any other kid to go through that same thing. And so like helping the younger folk just kind of find their way in the right way, find their passion in the right way, and kind of mold that for them. And that's why I started my business too. It's just helping people incorporate fitness into their lives in a way that's structurally and structurally good for them and safe for them and specific to what they need in their life.
Yeah. It would be weird. It'd be like going back to talk to your high school or something, where it's like it's your it's the new field of your old field, and like you'll be coming home. Like there must be, yeah, it'll be it'll be cool, I'm sure, but it'll be a weird. I'd find that really weird walking into a room or like a barn of like young people who are where I was like X amount of years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh,
Um, what are your aims then? So you for 2022, is your main aim, I'm going to be at the games? Is that where all your cards are?
Yes. So 2022 is get comfortable in Florida, start training with some amazing people who are going to make me better every day, and be all in. Because if you want to be a games athlete these days, you have to be all in. So every decision I make is going to be about that, and basically making sure I'm healthy going into the next season. And yes, I am going to be at the 2022 CrossFit Games, and I want to do it in a dominant fashion. Like, I don't want to be on the bubble. I don't want to be that guy. Like, I want to be next year. I want to be a completely different athlete. So I'm really looking forward to just this year and investing into that, because I think that in order to like back up what I've just said, like, it's going to take a lot of hard work. So I invite the hard work. I invite the struggle. I invite the pain, and just look at it all as growth. And so I'm going to be there next year for sure.
Yeah, I always get this when I talk to you. Like when I talked to Dallin, I had it as well, and when I talked to
Yeah.
Justin Medeiros, I had it as well. I was such an asshole when I was your age. Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand how this new breed of like person is just so well rounded and so like ambitious and like, I don't know, like mentally together and like intuitive and like well rounded. And it's
Yeah.
like I like shudder thinking of like what I would have said if I was asked, what are your plans for next year when I was
Yeah,
19? I like can't even forget it.
for sure.
Yeah, I like the use of I will be. I think that's great. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited for you. It's
Thank you.
really cool.
Thank you.
Um,
One thing I can tell you too is that, you're talking to a very, very much like minority group when you talk about Dallin and Justin. I'm like, you don't see a lot of kids doing this because it's not normal. And a lot of kids, like, just, I used to get like laughed at for like, oh man, you're skipping out on a sleepover and going to bed at 10. Like, that's so lame. Like what a loser. Like not actually, but like, it was like you felt like you were just missing out on so much. And most kids aren't willing to sacrifice that. And just kind of live a different norm, like your own normal lifestyle. Like I never looked at it as I'm missing out on the normal stuff. I'm living what my normal is and what I want. Like fulfilling my dream. My dream was not going out and partying and doing all this crazy stuff. My dream was like going out there and proving to myself that I can get better every day. And I just loved the feeling of sweat. Sweat was my drug. And I remember just like wanting to sweat so bad every day. I still love this feeling like of just getting sweaty. And it's just like, oh man, like I want more of that. It's like a endorphin, and I just need it and I crave it. And, sometimes even want to drink my sweat. I think it feels so good. Just kidding.
yeah, I'm just gonna edit that one little soundbite and just like have it on a loop somewhere. I like sometimes when I drink my sweat, I'm just gonna have that. Yeah, that's a new
Do it,
ringtone.
bro. You're the editing king. You have all the power in the situation. But yeah, speaking about that is like, I think that the more that I go to the gym now, the more addicted I get to it's not like I
But it's
have
like
to go.
anything, when you see those small little incremental improvements, even at like the most basic level of CrossFit, when you get your first or when you get your, string something together or whatever. So I assume like when you move from the age group up into the men's, it's basically like clean slate starting all over again, where
Yeah.
you have to prove yourself all over again, but you also get all these firsts again because everything is going up. Like your strength has to go up through the roof, and your
Yep.
your aerobic capacity, your gymnastics capacity, everything has to increase and everything has to ratchet up. And I think, I think you're going about things the right way anyway. And I think, you seem to, well, with Matt anyway, you seem to have a good head dictating what you have to do to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we'll finish with a quick fire. So these are
Yeah,
all
do it.
mostly either or. So assault bike or echo bike,
Assault bike.
ski or row,
Row.
bench or deadlift,
Deadlift.
snatch or clean,
Clean.
thrusters or burpees.
Thrusters.
If you could only do one movement for the rest of time from like one CrossFit movement, what would it be?
Kipping chest to bar pull-ups.
Why?
I just love them. I think they're so fun. I feel like I'm flying. Hey, you said we had to keep it quick. I'm trying to keep it quick.
Yeah. I was asked that before, and I took it as more of a, like, what would help you the most. So I was like,
Oh,
oh, well,
if you think what would help me the most, like, oh, it'd definitely be different. One movement for CrossFit. If I could only train one movement for a CrossFit competition, it would have to be the squat or the deadlift.
okay. Yeah. I went for burpee because I was like, if I'm 70 and I fall over, I want to be able to get up. So like,
For sure. When I'm 70, I'd probably pick the burpee as well, or just a sit up, because most people, I can't get up.
yeah,
You know,
that's true.
so
Okay, well, listen, thanks. Thanks for coming on.
oh
And
yeah,
enjoy. Well, best of luck with your move to Florida. Enjoy settling
yeah,
in and enjoy visiting the pit, and talking to your, I guess, as an alumni talking, or as an alum talking to your new crew. But yeah, look, I'm really excited to see what you can do next year. I think I've mentioned there that there is a remarkable mindset that's required, and I think that Josh Bridges recently said that you kind of have to be a bit of a psycho to do CrossFit because it's so relentless and so like endless, and there's always something new. Like, I don't know if you saw that Chalk Lama's meme with the tissues coming out of the box, where it's like when you learn one skill in CrossFit and then another one pops up and it's just all these different skills.
oh, I
But
love
yeah, I
that.
think it's remarkable what you've achieved so far, and I know you're maybe downplaying some of what you've achieved, but like, it takes a lot to be the fourth and fifth fittest in an age
For
category,
sure.
any age category, and especially to move up. What you and Dallin are doing on the girls side as well, like what they're doing moving up into the elite side, it's like, it is incredible. But yeah, I wish you all the best, and I'll be keeping a close eye on what you do next year.
Yeah, Peter, that means so much to me, and being here today, just talking about how like one of a kind goals require one of a kind people. I think that's a huge thing. And a lot of people say they're like all in, but like, are they able to live that lifestyle? And so I appreciate you like giving me the chance to kind of share my mindset, and hopefully some people can relate with it. And I hope to be back on here soon, man.